The most interesting bit is that we really don't know who created Alfred or why. That's because Alfred has several first appearances that all happen at basically the same time throughout the course of 1943.
Oh, interesting.
So the first time he goes to customers, like the first time a random Joe on the street can read about Alfred, is in Batman number 16, which comes out in April of 1943, has a cover date of May 1943. So he's first, kind of. There was the Batman serial, which is the sort of like movie series, which I promise our next episode is going to be about. I've got notes mostly written. We're coming for it.
Oh, great. I'm just having a laugh because I know that right after this, I'm going to Iowa to visit my family, which means I'm probably going to watch the Batman serials with my dad. It's just very funny to think about because I know a lot of the content in that.
Well, we could rearrange the recording if we need to.
It's good. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. It'll be an adventure.
Yeah. So that Batman serial, the first episode of it, comes out on July 16th of 1943. So that's several months later, right? That's like 2 months later, 3 months later.
Yep.
And then finally, at the end of that year, October 27th, 1943, we have the third day of the daily newspaper strip. Alfred appears in that, right?
We haven't talked about the newspaper strip before.
We're talking about it today. That's happening today.
I love it.
There is some reason to believe that he actually doesn't originate in the comics, that he's not created for the comics. And the reason is that we think he might be created for the serials. There is a shooting script that is on the internet for the Batman serial that's dated February 1943 that includes the character Alfred. And that is the first written record we have of the character. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's on archive.org. You can see a scan. It's of the first 7 chapters of the serial.
I did get a glimpse at it. It's pretty cool. It's like a time capsule.
It is really neat. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. We don't really know. It's kind of like the first example of like co-branding, of like cross medium, synergy. Like very clearly someone decided, hey, we need this Alfred character, probably for the movie. And they were like, well, let's do it everywhere, right? And because they're different creative teams, they're different people that are starting to work on these things, and they work together to do sort of this like corporate brand image thing. Batman will have this new character, and it's Alfred.
So my mind goes toward when I did the Origins episode like a year ago or whatever, and how there were like 3 big comics that came out in 1989 to essentially coincide with the movie. And it's what the Man Who Falls, which establishes his detective skills. The Shaman, which establishes some of the bat and the chorea, the sickness that he overcame. And then I don't recall what the third one was, but it's the one where he... I think year 1 starts when he returns, but this one was about when he went to Korea and he learned how to be a ninja, or not a ninja, but martial arts. And those all had overlapping storylines and they referenced each other, but they were separate issues or books. So
it's like Legends of the Dark Knight and Detective, and they're all kind of tying into.
Yeah, so it is really cool to see, like, even in these early days, they were starting to see, like, oh, we're going to have different media streams for this thing, and we need to have, like, a cohesive story across them.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure these writers are talking to each other so that we don't ruin Batman in one place that ends up, like, being the dominoes that ruins them all. So that's really cool.
It is cool, but like it's interesting. It's one of the things that actually a lot of people have strong opinions about that they wish they wouldn't do. So like, for example, Spider-Man in the 60s, all the way up until the early 2000s, has mechanical web shooters, right? He has the ones that he builds himself. Okay. He does science, right? Yeah. And for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, I don't know how in depth to go here. Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, he has organic web shooters, right? Like because he's been bitten by the spider, one of the mutations that he gets is that he has organic webbing, right? That he can shoot. The comics at the time feel the need to retcon so it matches. So they make the comic books match the movies, and people get upset, right? Because they're saying the tail's wagging the dog, right? That's supposed to be the adaptation. This is the original. Why are we changing our stuff? And it happens all the time where comic books are rearranging themselves to match the movies. But turns out all the way in 1943, probably happening then too.
Interesting. The example you just gave doesn't sound like synergy to me. That sounds like the tail wagging the dog. Like they followed suit, right?
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
Strong case to be made for that too, because
certainly
The organic web shooters was not, I can't remember who the screenwriter for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man eventually would be, but the first time the organic web shooters show up are actually in a 1993 treatment for a Spider-Man movie written by none other than James Cameron.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. James Cameron.
Yes, he wrote a treatment for Spider-Man in 1993. And there's a lot of elements, not a lot, maybe like 10% of the Sam Raimi movie comes from the James Cameron treatment, because there's continuity of production all the way, that almost 10 years, where there's a little bits and pieces that stick around.
Man, that guy's touched a lot of things.
The whole thing's out there online. You can read it.
Okay. I had no idea.
Don't recommend it.